Hello people, Linker here, and this list is already outdated. That's because the meta is moving fast, but today we're going to catch up to it. 20 hero updates, awesome new format, so let's dive right into it. In this video, we're going to quickly explain the format, give credit where it's due, then we'll adjust for the changes from the ultimate tier list for heroes that change their rate. Then we're going to place the newer heroes in the bottom on here onto this list, and lastly, the part I hear you people like the most, re-ranking the heroes who deserve it the most. Like, subscribe, and now, what are these lines? Do you see these lines here? For example, Aaron. I got the idea for Bark benchmarks from Grub. Awesome guy. He's working on his own version, which I'll link later. Definitely check him out. You've seen him in the Numisu overview. In this version, my version, the base is unlocking the item, and every 5 levels is going to be a level. For example, this is going to be 5, this is going to be the plus 10 on Aaron, this is going to be the plus 15, plus 20, plus 25, and 30. The higher the bar is, the more important the level is. This is useful for your decisions. Let's say you have both Damon and Aaron up there. You see both of them, and you want to get them to the plus 30 because you know that's the level they need. If you don't, you need to check out the videos. And you only have the plus 20 materials now. So you know both of them you want to eventually get to plus 30, but you're questioning yourself, which one is more valuable? So you check out the plus 20 line right over here, and you see Damon's is much higher than Aaron's. If you're on mobile, I'm sorry for that. I know it's a little small. I will link a version of this tier list. Anyways, because of that, Damon will make a better use of the plus 20, so it's a better investment for you to make. Some of these heroes really like the stats every 5 levels. Take for example, Gwyneth, Namora, Tassie, Numisu. All of these are going to have interesting jumps, which is why I feel like that information is important. Others only need a certain level. Take Isold 30 or Leica 20, which we will talk about in this video. Other changes include renaming niche carving to transformative. This is going to be heroes that function really change with their signature item unlocks. I renamed it because people started telling me that I was calling Soros niche, which is lols. But I digress. Campaign changes, big thanks to Grub, and it is time for business. So first, these are going to be quick changes from the ultimate tier list. We ranked all the heroes in the game with benchmarks. Check out that if you haven't. So now we have the consistent line where we know some heroes belong in different tiers. These changes have nothing to do with the hero signature items, so I won't show them as much on screen most of the time. Starting with Wukong, he goes down. Sadly, the case with Wukong is that he's awesome at full investment, but that can be said for most average heroes. He's hanging in with the very top of that tier among average, for the signature item is gonna be good. Next up, Rain, and this is so weird to me. This might be the biggest jump in history. Don't even ask me, but it was reworked since this was made. We started seeing her move up on Gwyn, and especially in Hein sets in the endgame. This is becoming exceptionally common. Over 50% of some of these sets, because she doesn't take a crucial piece of the God comp, which are the other subs in that set. With the bars here clarifying, the shield is tiny and you only need her plus 10 for the energy. You know what? She's good to move all the way to top heroes average. I know this sounds weird comparing it with something like a Mahira, but man is she good in the endgame. I never thought I'd say this, but she's actually giving a fight to Mahira in Ain's God comp meta. So investing in just her plus 10 is gonna be worth it. Get her furniture too, that's the big part. Up next, we need to talk about Ukyo. So I've seen people make these tier lists where all they do is all positive, but sadly this is not going to be one of those. There's going to be a lot of bumps down. This is useful for your decisions, so like, subscribe, appreciate it. Ukyo does not cut it, just doesn't. Other accuracy carries like Isold don't suffer from missing every 5th basic as much as he does. He does the furniture. His furniture, if you don't know that, buffs his attack over time, but it's hard to make it work. Too inconsistent, too small of a reward, and I like that only pay-to-play hero in the game is not going to be as high. Down to rework. As far as I'm concerned, down to rework or introduce some accuracy giving heroes. He can work with accuracy, he just needs the right support, and just like a signature item is not enough in the current meta to see use for him in any mode as far as I've seen it. Not even the dimensional buffs get this guy anywhere. Another hero move down is going to be Cecilia. Where's Cecilia? There she is. So Cecilia, what's said about that is that she suffers the same case as Rosalind, which we'll talk about in just a second. Gwynset. Anything that works in Gwyn sets and does not work in Iron set has suffered immensely from the drop in Gwyn sets where they're not on every single set. Look, Gwyn is awesome if you get that static backline, but often you don't. In those later chapters where Flora mid backline is something that's common, it's just very hard to make those carries work. So she barely doesn't make it to the average bracket. Cecilia's signature item giving a good hefty amount of energy, but we don't see her carrying yet. The Gwyn sets she used to support are falling off grace. The +1 is good, the rest not as much, so she goes down all the way to average for subpar. Sadly, the investment is mostly for Lightbearer Tower. If you're using it for campaign, it's extremely niche and inconsistent. Honestly, I'll deviate off script just to portray the same image for Rosaline, similar case to Cecilia actually. Fits in Gwyneth and not as much in Irons, making her an average hero. Moves to average for average with the potential for average for good if she finds more use in Irons sets later. She just hates this guy that's right next to her. Put them up together. Mortis kind of outclasses her in that role. Sadly, still hates the fact she exists in the game, but will move up as far as I'm concerned if she finds some use in certain Irons sets, if some heroes are just fragmented onto others. So she has that potential, but right now not good enough to warrant her place in the old list. Keeping it up with the negative trend, Sophia, she works with Aaron, but stiff competition. There's so much competition from Skriath, her friend over here in Crime, but also you talk about Lucretia, you talk about Zaf, many heroes that make it. We talked in depth about the furniture tier list, but she's just average now. That's because while it is slow, her signature item, it has rare merit in Aaron fights where the fight goes longer, so she does justify an average for average. But in Mullet Tower, and we'll talk about this in a second, even though this is a campaign tier list, she recently faced stiff competition there too. So Sophia, suffering from all this competition in the endgame, still a great hero, don't get me wrong, especially in certain Aaron sets that do actually need the support with the amount of recent substitutes we've been seeing to those sets. Stuff like even Fox, Lorsan, and sometimes even Rain, you know, with Lucretia and Zaf that got introduced recently. There's a lot of things giving her a fight for her place, so she's not as baseline as she used to be before. Theowyn, where's Theowyn? Right here, Theowyn proves herself to be actually useful. She goes in Thorn sets, she also goes into certain style Daemon and Isolde sets. I really like the Chinese meta players bringing this up for the forefront, kind of discovers it, especially the Korean players I think discovered this first. Counters healers and energy core, especially once enemies get their signature items. So with the signature item meta in those later chapters, she's going to move up all the way to average for average in the end game. Hot mention to the +10 debuffing more attack than people think. It's a long debuff, 20% if I recall correctly. I'll pull it up quickly over here. However, she's still niche, but a niche to keep an eye for. Last two, I gotta talk about them together. Cassos and Oscar. Man, I don't know what happened. Just don't ask me. I think it was AMB hyping him up with his shenanigans or something. I don't know. They're both really inconsistent. I know Cassus has the weird AMB pull core. I know Oscar Whip really likes that, but it's just not seeing endgame use in most sets. It's pretty tricky. I know Oscar pushes Athalia, but Athalia is not as common. It's also not the end-all be-all. While his stun is good, that's why you want the Sig item. As you see the big thing over here, you don't want to invest into such a situational heroes where you have stuff like Talene that can work into those Athalia sets, but can also work in so many other sets, and especially the recent stall heroes that are getting introduced that counter Athalia, like Mizoth, or others like Zora, that just nullify our effect entirely. This is a cool counter if you don't know it. I'm getting questions from the Discord, by the way. Budget Athalia counters? Brutus and Thorin are kings of budget Athalia counters. Now that we did some bump downs, we're really negative about it, we're ready for some real talk. The next section, new heroes. We see all these new heroes. This list was actually pretty old. So, Joker. Signature item makes him do area of effect damage. He deals much more damage with that thing. I know he ults faster. Some people are telling me, Linker, the +30, why do you need that? He already does the ult once every 7 seconds. But what you're missing is the signature item 20 effect applying on the 30. This allows him to attack stack haste, so it's not completely trash like some people think. Anyways, that's a staple good for average signature item. really good. Joker cutting it might even make it to meta in the future, but for now, sees usage in those Irons comps, sees usage in sub-win comps, sees usage in many strong comps in the meta right now. It also has the potential to extend into those CC core stuff that uses Khazard, Tassi, all of those. Zafrael, for example, very interesting hero to keep an eye for, and the signature item makes him be much stronger at the damage utility that it brings to the table. Queen, that's gonna be the other side, on the lower end of average heroes. Your signature item, look, it's fine, but most of it you get from the unlock +1. Obviously, I advise to get the +1 on all heroes. That's a very easy investment to make. The only reason I'm not gonna put her in the subpar for average, that's getting to be quite a slim tier, we're actually gonna put her in average to average, is the 30 actually being decent. Beware of overextending into this though. Make sure you get more important ones first. Look, I've said a lot, tier list or context blind, but Jokers, for example, will almost always take priority over this one. It's just really clunky. The shield itself is not as big, and while the crit and crit amp are pretty cool to have, is that really everything you're expecting from a hero you want to invest in? She's too clunky to see use, and the signature item does not make our situation better. Maybe some counter healing or attack over time would make it better. Regardless, that's for another day. Next up, YouTube people, get in the comments, type LMAO if you've been around when I made the last tier list where they just introduced Alna. Because if you remember right, Alna is LMAO. Since I predicted before her abilities even came out, she deserves to be the top tier. And my goodness, man, did she catch the top tier? So yeah, that's gonna be correct. Note her furniture is actually the important part. The furniture +9, the part where she gives immunity to another ally, I think it's cool and all, but it's not 100% necessary. So she slots fine into average top heroes, not higher than that. Don't overextend to it just blindly over a Daemon or something, but get that thing. You're gonna like the extra Winter's Calls, you're gonna like the slows, she's really good. Also, if you have Daemon, Stargaze here, you're gonna love it. And what is that, rat? That's gonna be Kren. If you're thinking of a clever comment and LMAO, get back up here because we need to talk. Kren's signature item is the weirdest mistranslation of all time. Here's what it reads. After every normal attack, he stuns and knocks back. I actually caught up to it. There's different animations. If he's stunning, it's a bomb. Otherwise, it's a missile. I'll show you this in a second. That part works fine. But what's weird is the ultimate. For example, look at this submission by Shadow on Reddit, a good friend of mine. Give me permission for this. Thank you, by the way. The ultimate knocks back but never stuns. It also doesn't benefit from the +20 because knockbacks are always the same. This is why you want to extend knockbacks when they do many of them, like Sarah's ult. You just do many in a row. But this just doesn't happen here. Every single bomb is going to do one of them. But I digress. Kren is also a hero that's based around the ult, but this weirdly enough partially buffs the ult. And while that buff doesn't make him meta alone, it allows him to do incredible things, so he's on top of the average, making him a stun locker rather than a brain dead damage dealer when you group the enemies right. It isn't the easiest to do, but the added functionality makes the signature item back here transformative. You know who else is transformative? Despite my precious mod's inability to read his ability, Respin. Without all this, he does stun lock and debuff. With the signature item, he can both carry and buff. That transforms the hero. This is the definition of transformative. So Respin Sigajam is gonna be transformative. If you people would like a video overview of Respin versus Kren, let me know down in the comments. But moving forward, we got the re-ranks. The re-rankings, these are going to be the meta shifts we would address in the old tier list. Just before that, consider joining over Twitch for early overviews and joining the channel to view these videos early. So what are the changes that we should make here? I'll start with Torn and Thane, both enabled by their signature items to carry. Look, they aren't incredibly consistent, but their niche is good enough to justify a jump from good to subpar heroes. So Thane and Torn right here. Next up, Leica. You see the big chunk on our 20? I'm sorry again, mobile users, but this is actually going to be quite a big chunk. People tell me this makes agility heroes deal more damage. This is transformative, but I would argue she enables agility comps even without this through the haste. Now, hot mention might move up to transformative or even average furniture in the recent addition to bursts like Zaf and Luke, giving her competition, but she's still so common to see. She justifies her place all the way in the very top tier. The meta Speaking of Lucretia, that's the definition of a transformative hero. This is going to be another mention. That's what makes her carry stronger when allies die. This isn't just a huge for her lore, it's also what's special about her, giving her her role in the meta. Without this, she'd be just another like mainstream agility Andy, which she isn't. And if that isn't transformative, I don't know what is. Shout out to Mia. And moving forward, on that same logic, Arthur belongs in transformative. Why does Arthur belong in transformative? Without this, he's a tank. With this, he buffs anything. He buffs Khazad, he buffs Gwyneth, he buffs, sorry for that, Ainz, he buffs many different things. So Arthur, incredible hero, very strong. The signature item is transformative. And another one that people want me to move to transformative is gonna be Odin. Odin got reworked in the middle. He now gets haste, that makes him slap. But there's the argument for transformative because the haste has more portals, so less room for damage when he carries. However, the place where this actually generates a niche and transforms the hero entirely is in the carry role, when he needs the extra damage and needs the extra portals to keep control. And both of these, extra damage through buffs and the extra portals, extra time, and CC is usually patched by his allies. When you look into what allies he goes with, this is mostly a matter of luck. So for me, not a transformative signature item, rather a good signature item. Very strong signature item. It makes what he already do much stronger. You usually go with the allies that rely on inconsistent randomness. Talk about people right over here, which I think is another transformative hero, which I won't mention right here, but I think Odin is going to be an average good, and I'll definitely keep a watch on replay data to report back to you guys if this is worth more. And then Whip or Aim Beast tier list would probably be up, but for me, good signature item, average hero. Quick mention to Namora remaining in the subpar tier, which got actually pretty slim. Special benchmarks for the haste, but the only role she has right now is the furniture 9 and some charms she does. The signature item does not play a big role in her ability, so it's still gonna remain subpar for this average hero. Another mention is gonna go down to Grezel, who starts seeing endgame use with the magic resistance. As I see it right now, the signature item is too defensive to make a big difference. Off the top of my head, it's gonna be HP and Def, I think. Stats and ability wise, both of them are very defensive. And where he's used is Daemon and Isolde sets, where he does not require staying alive for the bonus. However, Demonic Assault, stealing the abilities, the knockback after the rework, the furniture, they all got potential. So even though this is a campaign-oriented tier list, I'll quickly mention TR Necessity recently suffered a bit with the recent introduction of Fabled into Twisted Realm. Everyone around level 400 right now automatically gets Legend, who's no longer needed there. Despite this, Riptide and the Chinese and Korean players are starting to do it, approaching chapters 36 and forward, so I'll keep watch and definitely update you once we know more. For now, the meta is taking a good shift in my opinion with interesting new discoveries. I'm approaching some busier times in real life, so I really appreciate your support recently. Like, subscribe, and thank you. I've been Linker. Peace.